Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Many Minds. This is Yamilka.
I'm Rosie, and today we're going to talk about the holidays. Yeah, fun topic.
It is. It's a mix. It's a mixed bag. There is so much in it. When I hear holiday, when I say holiday, it is actually one of my favorite seasons.
Yeah, I think this year I'm like really reclaiming the holidays because it had become such a time of like pressure and stress and anxiety and like perfectionism for me that I was realizing
Mhm.
it was not fun for me anymore. So I was like, I would like to change that. So that's kind
Yeah,
of been
yeah,
my quest.
yeah. So today, then, more specifically, we'll talk about the holiday and the impact of holiday perfectionism.
Hmm.
I think that's what creates quite a lot of stress and, all of the expectations around this time of year, the things that you have to get done, the things that you don't have time to get to, and the list goes on.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And I think like when you're even maybe just breaking that down more, right? Like
Hmm.
when you're a parent, there's so much pressure to like
Hmm.
be make it a magical holiday for your kiddos,
Hmm.
especially when they're smaller. And if you're maybe not feeling that, or you're feeling anxious or stressed or something else, grieving or something, then that can be really hard. I don't feel like
Yeah.
putting my Disneyland face on today.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you have to put it on all the time? During the season. And I think that's also maybe part of the expectation and what gets in the way, that it feels sometimes that you have to have it on throughout the whole season, and rather
Mhm.
than just showing up yourself as you are and how you're feeling one day, and then the next day you can have the Disney face on and or off.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of messaging that's like the right way to experience the holidays, right? Is like merry and bright and like cheery and everything is bright and happy. And you go to the stores and there's like happy holiday music on. And if you're not feeling that, that can feel really dissonant or even like, what's wrong with
Mhm.
me? Right.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's oftentimes how people end up feeling. Maybe they don't necessarily want to engage in some of the festivities or the activities, but that's what's expected. Or like, why am I not really enjoying the season? And I feel like part of that expectation, that anxiety, that stress actually contributes to a lot of the lack of enjoyment. So it's like the more the expectations, the less you can enjoy it if the anxiety and the stress just increases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know, like for me, I think I put so much pressure on myself to buy the perfect gift for every
Hmm.
person on my list
Hmm.
that it was like not fun anymore. Like, I love giving gifts to people. I think that's one of the ways I really enjoy
Hmm.
showing love, but I hated it in the holidays because I've put so much pressure on myself to buy the perfect gift. Right.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. And maybe this will help. And I'm asking you a lot of questions because I didn't grow up with all
Mm,
of this, so we can
mhm,
get to that if you want to eventually. But for you, like the emotional toll, right, that it can take on a person. Like for me, it's more of, I guess, so overwhelmed by
mm,
the list and then having to go to a store and like purchase all of these things. And I don't know if people are necessarily gonna even enjoy or like. Some of them I do, but some other people I have no idea. Um, but I don't know what it's like for you, or maybe what is the history of why maybe you didn't really enjoy it as much.
yeah, I mean, I think that it's a deep question, right? Like, but I think I was coming from a place of like uh insecurity in a lot of my relationships where it felt like I need to show them in this big dramatic way that I love them
Mm.
and I really care because I bought you this really perfect, thoughtful gift. So
Mhm.
even though I've been really busy and, like working and being a mom and all of these things, and I haven't had as much time as I would like for our relationship, like I still really love you. So it
Uh,
had a lot of like weight and like pressure to it. And shame, right? Like the shame of like not being able to show up perfectly in every relationship or not being able to show up in a way that felt like
mhm.
this person knows that I'm there in their lives when maybe the constraints of my life make that hard. Right. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. So that was kind of a way of you kind of showing care. But
mm,
you're saying that the emotions that were linked to it were hard ones. I
yeah,
put
for
you in
sure.
the spot.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, maybe that's
Yeah.
relatable for people, maybe not. I don't
Yeah.
know. But I think
Mhm.
like, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
curious for you, like what were the holidays like growing up in Cuba? Like, did you celebrate?
I didn't celebrate.
Mm,
I mean, most of the holidays that I celebrated in Cuba were around political,
mm,
um, social political, I don't know, something happened on a specific day. So like for us, big holidays are, the 31st of December through the first, revolution
mm,
day, and or they're like battles that somebody won. So then that's another day. Some military big person's birthday. Those are our holidays. Growing up, now things are changing or have changed slowly. But so I didn't grow up with a lot of this expectation of
mm.
having to, I would say, perform. That's the way I experience it or see it. I don't want to offend anyone. So I don't care,
Yeah.
honestly.
Doesn't have the level of emotional intensity for you, it sounds like.
No, no, I do actually feel bad for my children sometimes because I
Mm,
do like buy the presents and I do like the Christmas tree is I try to like incorporate some of the American culture into our lives because clearly they're growing up in this country. And so just to help with that, but I don't have the emotional, I don't feel guilty if I don't like put up, this huge what do you call it? Like what is like the candy cane lane, when people have all of those
all the
beautiful
light.
lights and
Yeah.
stuff like that. I've done it. But if I go a year without it, I don't really have an emotional attachment to them. I don't care. So nothing happens. But what I do experience though is a sense of feeling really overwhelmed
Mm,
with not sometimes I in that overwhelm comes from me in my parenting. It's more
mm,
attached to my own children and how I parent them. And like I am so sorry. Like I feel so sad for you because you have a mother that loves you and cares for you and will get you the Christmas tree. I'll decorate the house inside. I'll do the presents and all the pretty things, but I don't really care.
mm.
So I don't have, and I'm sure somehow that influences. Actually, my daughter told me one time we were standing. This is a funny story, but I was actually sad for her. She told me we don't really have Christmas traditions, and I said, yes, we do. We go on a trip every year. And I felt so
Oh my
sad. And then
goodness.
I looked around and I was like, you know what? Yeah, it makes sense. We don't really have the typical or what's expected, talking about expectations because I don't have an emotional attachment to it. So in a way, clearly I'm influencing how they're growing up. And that means they're influenced by how I raised them and then by the world around them who is expecting certain traditions that maybe I try to follow, but not I don't know how to follow them with a full heart, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Well, I think that there's like, I mean, that's such a part of being a parent, right? Worrying about
Mm-hmm.
like, am I doing it right? Am I doing right by you? And I think the
Yeah.
I think I'm really kind of in a space of looking at like what are the
Mhm.
things that I associate with this time of year that light me up. Not just like
Mhm.
what do I feel like I should do to be a
Mhm.
good whatever. But like what actually brings me joy. And I think the lights are really pretty and I love hot
Mhm.
chocolate and like almost like creating like a little mini like season bucket list, right? Of like
Yeah. Yeah.
what's for me? Like who cares about everybody else? Like in the society, not my family, right? But like what are the things that I want to prioritize doing? What are the traditions I want to build? Because
Yeah.
not everyone is going to be meaningful or fun for every person,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you're saying something really important. What works for one person doesn't work for the other, and what's important to you and those that are really close to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because, we look at ourselves and we want to be genuine to ourselves, but then we also want to care for the people or take care of the people that are important to us,
Yeah.
without being too disingenuine to us or them.
Yeah. Can
Yeah.
be a fine fine line sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. I since then ask what's important to you. Hot chocolate and marshmallows are important, so I get those.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. I think that's perfect too. Like,
Yeah,
what are the things in this season that light
brings
you
you
up?
joy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What makes
Yeah.
merry and bright for you, right? And I think it can also be really complex when you, I mean, to be transparent, like I'm not Christian, right? Like I just
Hmm.
grew up celebrating Christmas, right? But
It's the
like,
American culture, whether
right,
you
totally.
are.
And I think it's also I imagine it's probably feels and maybe not. I don't know. I imagine that it's probably really individual, but I imagine some people that don't celebrate Christmas or that maybe like celebrate Hanukkah or none of it, right? Probably
Mhm.
feel uh I don't know, othered or isolated in kind of this pressured season of like, this is how it's supposed to look. And this is, like everybody is talking about Christmas, and maybe that's not something I care about or want to celebrate at all.
Mhm.
Yeah, or maybe
Yeah.
I celebrate Hanukkah or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a good point, though. But I think that goes back to the bigger picture of, like, socially kind of what is expected and kind of that pressure that in a way or another can be oppressive.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, like, you spoke to kind of something that's really interesting and nuanced, right? Which is that, like, as parents, we have this pressure to like help our children exist and thrive in the world that is sometimes pressuring. And like, how do we kind of navigate this space? It's a lot. It can be a lot.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
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 And I think like imparting to our children the kinds of values, the kinds of experiences that we want them to get from us too, right? Like
Yeah.
for me, this season is not about consumerism, right? I really want this season to be about connection and like expressing love and not about like, what am I going to get? Right. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, that is the message, right?
mhm.
That is the message. What am I gonna get
Right. Yeah.
versus how are we gonna connect over this time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can definitely be tricky. And I think I'm like constantly trying to remind my kids, like, it's not about that. This season's not about me, and what can I get, right? And like like um I encourage them to pick gifts for each other or like make gifts for
Hmm.
friends or like
Hmm.
start thinking about like, how do I want to express and give love in the world, not just like,
Yeah. What is the meaning behind what you're giving versus just giving because you're supposed to?
right, totally,
Yeah.
totally. This just
Yeah.
because I'm pressured to.
Right. Which is where I experience the overwhelmed. When
Mhm,
I do, it's like, oh my gosh, I have this whole list. I
mhm,
have versus I actually want to get this for this person. Like that's more of I actually love giving, by the way. I
yeah,
love giving, but I want to give because I want to give, not because I'm pressured to give, because that feels so stressful.
totally.
And at that point, I'm like, give me a list of three things so I can pick one for you.
Yeah, give me your shopping list, your Amazon wish list, or your Etsy wish list, or whatever. And
Yeah, yeah, but it's, again, going back, it's just really hard because you have to balance the cultural, societal expectations with your parenting, going back to your point. And I think when kids are little, it's really hard for them to see that. Naturally, they're still in the me
mhm,
zone. But as they grow older, they can actually, whether they say it or not, you can probably see it that they learn to look back and appreciate. That's been my experience, at least personally, and with some of my kid clients. That they do actually appreciate that you gave them maybe something small and took time to like maybe you went to a park with them and they really remember the fun memory.
mhm.
Um, but it was something more meaningful when it comes to the experience.
Yeah.
They still want the gift because when they go back to school, that's another one of the pressure, right? Is
What'd
what do
you
you
get?
get for Christmas or what do you get for the holiday or where do you travel to?
Mhm.
So there's expectations not just within the house and within yourself, but outside of that, those systems, your system, household system, external systems, all of
Yeah,
them.
totally. That's such a good point. Uh, I mean, I think, you know, like the Elf on a Shelf has become quite popular, right? Like, and I hate Elf on a Shelf. No
I don't do that
offense to
one.
anyone that might be listening that loves Elf on a Shelf. I think it's
That's okay.
funny. Like, I really enjoy the ways that the creative expression that people have with Elf on a Shelf, but I hate the messaging of like, this this elf is here to catch you being bad, to tell Santa, right? And so like we actually instead have kindness elves visit, which is a whole,
Oh,
it's really sweet and beautiful, and they um like leave little notes about like ideas of how to be like thoughtful and kind, and like it's
that is
it's a
cute.
much different, like it's a way different vibe, and it's really sweet. And
It's not a punitive elf.
yeah, yeah, it's a lot more, we're a positive discipline family. And yeah, and I'm watching my 8-year-old daughter like making little gifts for the elves, and like it's really cute, and like writing them little love notes and stuff, and
Oh,
like
that is sweet. That is sweet.
taking their ideas and like spreading joy and love to other people.
Yeah. But I think what you're saying, going back to the point, is there are things that can become stressful, that you can also create or integrate what's feels more genuine to yourself. The elf on the shelf is not something you can resonate with. You don't like it. You don't want this for your family. But now you have a kind elf. So you came up with your own ritual for your family that you feel like it fits more with your own system. So you're kind of bridging that gap between, okay, you do have an elf, but maybe it's not the one that your friends have, and then you're teaching your kids, or you're also living your own individual life as a person and as a parent that align more with yourself
Mhm.
versus the stress of what's expected.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think it is definitely that balance of looking at like, okay, well, these are the expectations, and like, do I want to live by that? Or do I want to live up to this expectation but not that
Mhm.
one? Or I don't know. It's always been a funny time of like tension in my marriage because my husband does not care about what other people expect from him at all, which I think is refreshing in a
It
way.
sounds like me.
And
I do care.
also
I do
is like
care.
very frustrating because I'm like, no, it has to be the perfect gift. And he's like, I don't care. I'll just get him nothing. That's fine. Yeah, so this year I actually like made a spreadsheet because I was like, I'm not gonna hold all of the mental emotional labor of buying the perfect gift and have you be resentful about the money that costs. Like, you
Uh,
take these names and I'm gonna do on my side, I'm gonna like let go of it needing to be perfect and allow you to buy gifts that I'm frankly gonna think are dumb. Like, just let it go, like, yeah.
sharing that load.
Yeah.
If they don't like it, he got it.
Yeah, I preemptively was like, sorry, Chris is buying your gifts this year. I don't know. We'll see if they're any good. I don't know. Um
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you think would be a good, I'm keeping track of our time, final message for people who actually get highly stressed with a holiday?
yeah. I
And
mean,
when it comes to being perfect and everything.
I think really like taking the time to try to figure out like what, this part of you that's trying to show up perfectly, what are you afraid really would happen if you didn't show up
Mm-hmm.
perfectly? And like taking the time to really listen to yourself around that, and
Yeah.
also putting a critical eye on like, what do I actually want this season to look like and feel like, and what do I actually care about or enjoy
Mm-hmm.
doing? Like, what are the traditions that I want to hold, the things that I care about? What gift would bring me joy to buy this person? That's literally, I wrote that on the top of our spreadsheet for the holidays. It's like, what would bring me joy to buy them?
Yeah.
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 What are your
Yeah.
takeaways?
I think it's important to have an integration
Mm,
of what would bring me joy so I feel genuine and true to myself and not just pressured and overwhelmed, and at the same time noting what's important for them.
yeah.
Yeah, and accepting that part, right? That sometimes maybe I don't want to put a Christmas tree this year, but I know my kids love it, and
Hmm.
that's okay. I can find joy in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like a really interesting, like you said, it's a fine balance because we do want to be genuine to ourselves, as much as we can, while at the same time caring for the people, or showing the people that we care about that we love them in the way that they want to feel loved and
Yeah.
seen. Yeah. Which is
Yeah.
why it's stressful.
Stressful. It is. And if you have relationship dynamics that are, maybe a little deeper than that and maybe need a little therapy, then
Reach
it's
out.
hard, pressured time. And we're here if you need
Yes.
you
I
need a
th-
therapist and you live in California or Florida.
yes. And I think, just validating. We also experience a lot of the stress and the challenge
Yeah, for sure.
that goes with the season. Everybody, I guess, in their own ways, they do that.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Well,
Thank you, Rosie.
I hope everyone out there has a good holiday, whatever
Yeah.
if you celebrate.
Yeah. Whatever holiday you celebrate. And yeah, try to enjoy it.
Yeah. And if
Even
you
if,
liked this episode, you can like and subscribe, follow and subscribe, and you can also drop in the comments any ideas you have or topics you might want us to cover.
thanks. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.